Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming for our, I don't know how many events, but let's say 20th event for Marketing Envy with HubSpot. We have a full agenda today. Thank you for coming. Some announcements. First of all, there is more food coming. Apparently, a group of angry high-tech people that got a countdown on the 10 Bs blocked Israeli. I'm joking, no. And the food truck is late. So it will be coming soon, and hopefully there will be more variety of things to eat for breakfast. So thank you for coming today. As usual, I don't know if you've been to previous events. We have a whiskey, an awesome Glen Grant 10 years bottle. We are doing a draw, so if you put your business cards in the bowl that will just start passing, here's the bowl. Lily, show everyone the bowl. Here's the bowl. So she'll pass it between you. Please put your cards there, and we'll draw at the end the winner. So that's for announcement. Let's go to the event today. As I said, we wanted, when we thought about this event, the most important thing we had in mind is Q4. Q4 is traditionally, obviously, the biggest quarter for B2B, and most business decisions at the end will be accepted around October, November, and even towards December. Not to mention the secondary peak in January and February as well. So Q4 is very substantial for all of us, and we wanted to help everyone to be on track and to be in the right place and give you ideas of what you need to do for Q4. And in order to do that, we invited some awesome guests, and we'll present them in a minute. Just a bit about us, some shameless promotion. Marketing Envy is a B2B tech agency. We work with both startups and large established tech companies. The techier, the better. We provide inbound marketing services, content, social, SEO, as well as lead generation on Google and LinkedIn, Twitter, Quora, Facebook, mostly with ABM strategies. And of course, HubSpot. We are a platinum partner for HubSpot. And we have two people from HubSpot today that would love to talk to you about everything you wanted to know about HubSpot. Before we go to the agenda, do you know this feature, the awesome LinkedIn Around Me feature? So please, if you can all take out your phones, turn this on. Immediately, everyone around you, it's like auto networking. I love calling it like that. Immediately, everyone around you, you'll be able to connect to them. I think it's the best networking feature to date. So feel free to open LinkedIn. Everybody managed to do that? Do you want me to keep it on for a bit more? So just leave it for a few minutes so you can find everyone. And let's talk about today. So today, obviously my opening words are just happening right now. And then we'll have Eitan Buchman from Freightos to talk about how they're shipping MQLs at scale. Lindsay from the growth team in HubSpot will talk to us about how killing the funnel. I don't know if you know, but HubSpot killed the funnel. Introduced the flywheel. Have you ever heard about the flywheel? Well, Lindsay is going to talk about it quite a lot, and how it can actually help us reach our goals in Q4. Merav Keren from Cato will talk about how they managed to bring a very, very strong Q4 last year and obviously this year as well. And then we'll move to the panel headed by Sinead Goggin from HubSpot, the Senior Account Channel Manager, who will host the speakers from Cyberint, Cato, and Freightos to ask them all the burning questions and also your questions about Q4. So just a few things about the meetup. If you have any questions about what's working, what's not working, what should we do towards Q4, what's working in Q4 that doesn't work in Q2, for example, that's the place. Think about your questions and you'll have a chance to ask them at the panel. So enjoy and thank you very much. Eitan, your turn.
Thank you. Hey guys, good morning. Good morning. Oh, come on, wake up a little. I'm done. I got applause, I'm happy. Okay, so what I want to talk about today a little bit is gearing up for peak season, what we call peak season, I guess, in international freight, what most people call busy season. But before I get started, I want you guys to visualize something, right? Does everybody here have internet at their house? You guys are really quiet. You have internet at your home? Yeah, okay. So I have internet too. We're not so different, you and I. when you move, right? When you first move and you don't have internet at your new apartment, right? Right, which is like a weird, it's like I'm not a prepared guy, and you'll see this later on. When you first move and your internet isn't up and running, if the guy from Bezek or Hot or whoever you call up to get installed with internet calls you up, at least calls me up, let me talk about me, not you. If I'm on the phone with my dying grandmother and the guy from the internet calls me up to install internet, I will hang up on my grandmother, feel very, very bad. But you just really, really want that internet, right? You need it because you're living somewhere without Wi-Fi. At the same time, if you call a bunch of providers before you move in somewhere, right, and you choose one of them, 2 days later, somebody calls, and they keep on calling, and you're on the phone, and they keep on calling, and you keep on calling, you get so upset with them, right? They just keep on beeping in, they drive you nuts. And that difference, I think, right there between when you need the Wi-Fi or when you don't need the Wi-Fi is what this entire day is about, right? It's about creating that need so that you can reach out to people when you need to reach out to them. First, my name is Ethan Buckman. I'm the head of marketing at Freightos. Freightos is basically an Expedia for international freight. This is actually me. I've gotten less cool since. My job is to make international freight sexy, which is not so easy. I also host a podcast called Marketers and Capes, which is basically a short form marketing podcast. You're welcome to check it out afterwards. And most importantly, I have charts. I have very, very fancy charts right now. These are months. If you visualize your prospect, right, B2B prospect, this is kind of what his level of busyness is throughout the year, okay, or the second half of the year. It starts in July when we're all kind of bored. August, most people go on vacation, especially in Europe, right? Europe, they're basically off from over here to like over here. But over here, they start getting busy from personal time, right, hanging out with their kids. And they keep on going, right? Things start to get busy until November. And then they're on vacation in December, so they're super busy and you can't get in touch with them, right? This is where our prospects are. And one of the biggest mistakes around peak season is starting off, or around busy season, is starting off with the idea that it's about me selling, right? Because it's never about you selling, it's about other people buying, right? So these are the people. It's not how busy are you and how busy are you trying to sell, it's how busy is the person that you're trying to reach. The second parameter that you need to take into account is need. How much do the users or the people that you're trying to sell actually need the product that you're trying to sell to them, right? So right over here is a little bit of a magic spot, right? Because right over here, the level of busyness that they have is under the level of need. They need you more than they're busy, so it's easier to sell. The busier they get, the harder. This isn't particularly sophisticated. I'm a marketer, not like whatever. Somebody does something interesting, right? So the busier they are, the harder it is to sell to them. What's interesting is that you do not have the power to change how busy they are. That's fixed. What you do have the power to do is change their demand, to change how much they actually need you. That leaves two options, right? A, you can make them need you more, right? As soon as you manage to raise that level of need, then suddenly there's a couple of extra months or a couple of extra weeks that you can actually get to people. And that's a really, for me at least, I actually have to admit, I've never thought about this like from a theoretical level until Billy and the team asked me to speak. And I was happy I did because this is like, it's not a particularly difficult concept, but just knowing that I actually, during the season, it's not that I have to sell harder or I have to market harder, it's that I have to increase the demand that people actually have during that period of time. What that means is, do you have the capability to increase need? Right? Do you have the capability in September or October to make somebody want it more than they did in the past and make sure that you're above that level of busyness? If you do, that's great. Right? Go ahead and do it however you can. If you can't do it, that leaves you back over here, which is okay too, but it means that you have to prepare really, really early on in order to actually close any deals or bring in any MQLs during the course of the actual busy season. Now, one important thing is that last minute never works. This is something that I've learned myself way too many times. It doesn't work for a couple of reasons, right? If in the middle of Q3 or towards the end of Q3, you're trying to come up with ways to get more leads in there, you're probably gonna end up doing more damage than good. At least I've done more damage than good. The first reason is that really good marketers implement. So if during July you come up with something smart that you can do, right? You can tweak your funnel, you can come up with a good webinar, you can come up with a good piece of content, you can change your UI, you can implement a new word-of-mouth referral program. You're not waiting until Q3 to do that, right? As soon as we come up with ideas, we implement it and we iterate it. And we can do that because we're marketing, right? There's a ton of data there, and all you need to do is iterate, and you take something and you make it happen. So by the time you get to the end of Q3, you're kind of out of like amazing ideas. So maybe there's like small iterations that you can make, but desperation to drive more leads plus trying to come up with new ideas can very frequently just create terrible ideas that you'll end up regretting later. The other thing is, right, like you can't suddenly scale up. Sales guys, when they're busy, they can suddenly, or when they know that they have to hit targets, or when their commission structure changes, they'll go from making 50 calls a day to 75 calls a day. We can't do more marketings, right? We're marketing at max capacity, right? You could stay extra, you could write some more articles, but that's not really going to move the needle. The last thing, and this is the one that I regret the most doing ourselves, Hail Marys, right? If in the last week of a quarter, you create a promotion code and you suddenly send out a 20% discount to all your prospects, then you end up screwing yourself. Apple did this too, right? Last year, Apple changed their trade-in program, which almost every single person in the industry called an act of desperation. And you feel so bad for Apple because they have spent decades building this incredible luxury brand, right? They put everything that they do into creating a brand that makes it okay to shell out $1,000 for a cell phone. And then they do this one stupid move that comes out of desperation, so the Motley Fool thinks it's okay, but it's a dumb move from a marketing perspective because you end up cheapening the brand with this stupid thing like, hey, take my phone, take my phone, take my phone, and suddenly you don't want that phone because Apple is really about, give me my phone, give me the phone, not take the phone. So you have to stay away from that last minute thing, right? So what can you actually do? You have to start early. So the first very cheery line here is basically that if you're only starting to think about this right now, you're kind of screwed anyway, so sorry, goodbye. But also, like, you need to start, like, right now is when you start preparing for busy season, not next month, right? In the beginning of January is when you should start preparing for busy season, right? So the first thing is you really have to start funnels early. Start them really, sorry, maybe, I guess HubSpot's gonna be pissed off for me saying funnels. You have to start non-funnels very, very early, back in January or February. Our #1 performing piece of content, we do this survey, there's a little freight, I'm sorry. We do this survey of freight companies around the world. We take the top 20 freight companies every single year. We rank them in terms of how well they're successfully marketing online. And we put this report together. And we put this report out intentionally in January, when people are back from their vacations and they're bored and they're just getting started with the year. And we push it in front of people on LinkedIn and we pay pennies, literally pennies for leads. Our average cost for C-level leads at some of the largest companies in the world, like DB Schenker, Panalpina, you guys don't know them, but they're really, really big, I promise. These companies, we end up paying $18 per lead in January and February. And as you get to September and October and the environment becomes more saturated, they're not looking at LinkedIn as much. They're not downloading leads as much. You have to start really, really early, and then you push them into the nurture funnel and you keep on going. And you aim that cadence of the nurture funnel to start to really kick off into sales in Q3. So we will take people in Q1, and we won't even put the salespeople in touch with them when they first download content, and we'll keep on trickling out more in-depth content. Only in Q2 will we start to gear up towards sales and product-related content, and Q3 is when we'll really amp it up. And then we'll wait until they know the product, they know it really, really well, and the last 2 or 3 weeks of November, when they're starting to try to figure out how they can use their budget, is when we'll call them up and we'll say, hey, let's close this before the end of the year, because I know that you have excess budget. So I think everybody probably knows this, start early, right? The other thing is that you don't need to be slaves. Just because B2B is busy during Q4 doesn't mean that you need to be slaves to that as well. You can create your own busy season. So there's a couple of different ways to do that. The first is just knowing your industry backwards and forwards. And you figure out what are the trade shows that every single person goes to, right? So if you have your, I don't know, if you're in the Salesforce space, right? And everybody goes to Dreamforce, wait a week until after Dreamforce, when suddenly people have a little bit more time and hit them up there. Right? Don't be slaves to that Q4 idea. And when you speak to people, you can say, I don't want to wait until you're running out of budget in Q4. I want to help you spend your budget in a more intelligent manner, base it around their actual industry and their actual performance, and hit them up when it makes sense, not when it makes sense for you. Early worm them, right? So like, tell them, early worm gets the bird. Instead of giving you a Q4 discount, I'm going to give you my Q4 discount in Q2. Or Q1 if you're whatever on a different financial tracking, right? But basically come up with ideas. How can I bring their busy season earlier so that I'm getting to them, whoa, really far back. So I'm getting to them over here rather than waiting until things are busy and it's much harder to do. Getting lost here. Okay. The last thing is like you can actually come up with funnier ideas around that peak season. We're sending out holiday cards, or hopefully I'm having a big fight with the people on my team who don't like the idea. But we might, if I successfully push this through, send out holiday cards in August, right? And say like, hey, we're not going to wait until you're too busy. We know you don't really want to hear from a freight technology company around Christmas time. We're not big on bows. We're not big on wrapping paper. But we're deciding in the middle of August to say, hey, thanks for being a customer. We really, really like you. Or thanks for being a prospect. We're really happy that you follow our stuff. And get in front of their faces instead of waiting for everybody else to send those cards. The one exception of when you want to be in the mass is when people send out those GDPR emails and you want to get buried. right? But besides that, stick out. If you are built around a holiday cadence schedule, right, your Independence Day email should never go out on July 3rd or July 4th, right? You push it early or you push it late, but get around the rush when everybody else is doing it. Other thing, not all quarters are created equally, right? So if you have ad spend, always front load that ad spend, or I don't know what the opposite of front load is, backload ad spend. Always make sure that you're taking your ad spend and you're pushing it in places that actually make sense, right? The one mistake to do that you don't want to do on PPC is just to shut it off, because if you shut it off and then turn it back on, Google will hate you forever and it'll take forever to get back to your conversion rates. We switch a lot more of our ad spend towards buy intent keywords during Q3 or Q4, right? When people are actually looking for those solutions, we'll throw more spend into the buy intent and we'll take a little bit more spend away from the nurture flows, because we know that if we want to actually try to nail leads this quarter or the next quarter, we need to switch to the buy intent. Make sure that you don't kill your Q1, right? You don't want to turn off your leads, turn off all your nurture funnels, and then in Q1 you end up being way, way worse off than you were in Q4. And model right. This is something big that we discovered at Freightos. I'm sure everybody else in our industry knew it. We're tech people, not freight people. But there's a big peak season because of Chinese New Year in February. And we had no clue about it. And every single year, our Q2 was just getting destroyed. And it took us like 2 years to pick up with the fact that, like, hey, this industry has its own unique quirks. And we have to come up with the right model in order to actually accommodate. OK, how do you actually, during peak season or during busy season, when you actually need to start selling, how do you actually start selling? And jujitsu, which is just like writing those words, is the closest I got to any athletic activity in the past month. Jujitsu, from the little that I know from Karate Kid maybe, is all about taking other people's efforts and turning them into helping you. So just 2 ways to do that. If people are actually thinking about a busy season, right? If that's what's on their mind, because you're selling to other B2B companies. And those B2B companies are also really interested in making sure that they take advantage of busy season. So educate them about how they can manage busy season, right? Make sure that you know they need to take care of their busy season, and make sure you educate around them. Our most successful piece of content that we do every single year, we started out by doing it as a webinar about how to deal with busy season, and we started a little bit before busy season. We turned that into a series of webinars that we do around busy season, then we expanded from there into an email nurture flow with kind of a university on how to deal with busy season. But take advantage of that. The second thing, and this is my favorite so far, is there's a very, very clear cadence, at least in international freight, for busy season sales, right? It's something that everybody tracks. And it's not so hard to track. If you have a decent sized company, you can actually see data points of how many people are signing up for your platform and how many people are actually buying. So 3 years ago, we decided we can take all of the data that we have about how busy season actually is, and we put together a freight index, where we'll basically grab all of our prices, and we'll put them up. We built this dedicated website for it called the Freightos Freight Index. And we basically reached out to every single reporter in our space in business and international freight and trade publications. And we basically said, hey, we can give you hard data about how busy this busy season actually is. And any company can do it. This doesn't need to be about international freight, right? It could be about how many visitors you have on your website. This is how busy season is. What are the cadences for when people actually end up buying marketing software or medical devices or whatever you're actually selling? You put together data around that, and you leverage the fact that people are curious about how busy season is going in order to interest them in busy season, get them into you to start that sales funnel going. And this is just one example, but we regularly pick up this data, which started during busy season. We ended up implementing on an annual basis, and literally every single week we end up walking away with 5 or 6 articles in major publications. This is the Wall Street Journal, but we pick it up on a regular basis just by taking the data that we already had and weaponizing it a little bit. Another really interesting thing, and this really changed a lot of how we market, is better segmentation, and specifically focusing on segmentation and prioritization of leads during the course of user journeys on your website. So let me unpack that a little bit. During the course of the year, I think most people probably end up doing this, we profile our visitors, right? When they perform specific buy intent activities, we profile them, we take their explicit activities, their implicit activities, and we start bucketing them into different buckets of how much we think they're going to spend on our website, how fast we think they'll convert. And we've gotten pretty good at it, right? So basically, we have a running scale from 1 to 10 of our lead score for users after they sign up. And different activities will give you different jumps in scores. The red line right over here is the conversion rate to actual buyer, right? So how well do they actually perform? So you can see that our 1, 2s, and 3s, the people that have low lead scores, are really, really crappy at converting. As you get to the 6s and 7s, suddenly it starts to take off, right? So what this means is that if I know that I had a 7 come to my website in Q2, he's probably going to buy. If I had a 7 that came in Q4, when he is super busy and he has a lot of other things on his mind, but he's still taking those buy intent activities on my website, there is nothing more important than reaching out to that guy as quickly as possible. So when our sales team really need to crush it at leads, we change our segmentation. And we start escalating our higher quality MQLs as quickly as possible. We do a last in, first out, right? Somebody signs up. If they hit 7 or 8 very quickly, that'll get shifted to the top of the pile for our sales team. And we make sure that we hit them really quickly and really hard. The last main thing is basically shifting your messaging to super urgency. Again, if people are really busy, over here, I was really proud of these charts, so I'm just trying to overuse them a little bit. Right? If people are super busy, but they're still hitting that point where they need you right now, that means that they need you right now. And that means that your messaging should totally leverage that urgency. So when people come to our website, and it's the last week of peak season in international freight, which basically means they've literally missed the boat, right? There's no way that they're going to get their goods out to whatever, from China to the US on time. The only thing that they can do is international air freight instead. So we'll take that messaging and we'll understand their behavior enough to know that if they're approaching us over here, right? If they're approaching us when people are really busy, but they still need it, the product that they're looking for and the offering that they're looking for is not necessarily the same offering that somebody over here in Q2 is looking for. So if they're looking for, if you're selling a SaaS platform, like a big B2B or enterprise SaaS platform, and somebody comes and they prioritize themselves and they show that they're interested in it, one of the most important things that you can message around is rapid rollout, right? If somebody says, I need this right now, and I'm coming here anyways during this really busy season, if you get on the phone and say, hey, we can make this happen right now, or if your messaging, if your collateral, if your emails, if your nurture flow shifts over to saying, if you need this right now, we can get this rolled out within 2 weeks if you sign the deal right now, that's going to be messaging that's way more effective than anything else. So make sure that you get in the customer mindset. And the one biggest takeaway that I would say, if you only pay attention to one thing here, it's that everything right now, as soon as you get to the September point, everything becomes around understanding the user, respecting the fact that they're busy, respecting the fact that you need to create that urgency. You need to create enough of an offering if you ever want to sell during September, October, November. The marketing team needs to create enough urgency around the messaging. Change your H1 on your website to say, close this quarter with a bang. Right? Change your entire messaging to show that this is a offering that I can close for you this week or this month so that your numbers change in time for the end of the year. That's it. This deck is available on my website at buckman.co.il. As I said, start early, make your own busy season, schedule your activities intelligently around this stuff, answer their busy season needs, segment, attack, and message, and be nice to your mom because it's just the right thing to do. You can find this deck and some other things at buckman.co.il. If you're interested in quick marketing tips, again, my podcast is called Marketers and Capes. Thank you so much to Rise and to Marketing Envy for hosting this.
Any questions? Can I have one question?
No, I don't work out.
So much,
Was that not the
so much
question?
for morning.
Yeah. More coffee.
Thank you so much, Aidan. It's really great of you to speak about it. To focus on more events in Q3, Q4. And now I'm very happy to invite Lindsay Coppe from HubSpot. Lindsay is in the growth team, which their whole job is basically to help clients use HubSpot as best as possible in order to grow. And because Q4 is all about growth, she came here to share some of her insights. And help us do just that. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks. So I'm not sure if this is the mic or this is the mic. Or both are the mics. Okay. Okay. Can you hear me okay then? Okay. Thanks for covering the intro because I realized after this that I did not have an intro slide. But yeah, my name is Lindsay. I work in our Dublin office for HubSpot. And I work with customers in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, helping them embrace all 3 of our hubs that we'll talk about shortly. But before we get going, can I just have a sense for who's in the room? Are people familiar with HubSpot? Are some of you using HubSpot? Just so I'm not talking about HubSpot and you're like, what is HubSpot? Okay, so a couple of you. Okay, most of you actually. Okay. Cool, so I know we talked a little bit about the funnel. Today we'll talk about how killing the funnel and hopefully embracing the flywheel will help you hit some goals. We'll then talk about how to eliminate friction in Q4, how some customers of ours are doing it really well, and how you can set yourself up for a strong end of year. And ultimately some resources, how you can start to implement some of these strategies on your own after. So this is the funnel. I think we're all familiar with the funnel, I hope, otherwise I'm worried. But the idea was marketing led to sales, and ultimately customers were the output of the work that we put into marketing and selling. It's how we've built HubSpot to this date, but this is broken today. And the reason is that today, more than ever, it's harder to acquire a lead. In the last 5 years, the cost has risen by 50% to acquire a lead. At the same time, we're living in this era of fake news. So we have word of mouth and customer references as the two kind of main sources that people are relying on when they're making business decisions. They're no longer relying on salespeople, on marketers. So we really need to change to adapt. So what do we do in this era where the cost is extremely high and trust is extremely low? And that's where this idea of the funnel gets put aside, and we embrace the flywheel. So you can see in the funnel, customers are really they're the afterthought. They're seen as the output, you're done. Once you get your customers, that's it, that's a win. At HubSpot, our idea is that customers, you need to delight customers at every stage of the funnel, because they're ultimately going to be the source that's driving your business forward. As you can see, this delight stage, it doesn't end when we get a customer. If we keep them happy, that's going to feed back into the attract stage. And a really healthy flywheel is one where you're attracting happy customers, they're engaging with your brand, they're talking about you on social, and they're giving you referrals based on the fact that they just love what you do and how you handle the relationship. So this is a healthy flywheel. I would say there are very few businesses doing this really well. And what an unhealthy flywheel would look like is one where there's a lot of friction. Customers and prospects are just not moving smoothly through the process. And some of those kind of common points of friction, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm kind of a hybrid marketing, customer, sales role. So, but these are the 3 areas that we identify the most friction happening. So capturing leads, when you're trying to close that customer, and ultimately, how do we actually turn our customers into promoters of our brand? So some of those friction points when you're capturing a lead might be a really manual process to get a lead. Is your form just too long? Do you have a form that people are just not filling out? We're kind of more wary to fill out forms these days. Is your content not only localized but personalized? Like if you're a B2B company, you also probably have some B2C or maybe have some B2C offer. If your website is totally geared toward B2B or B2C, it may not be resonating with everyone. So how can we personalize that experience so that when someone comes to your website, they're really engaged and your content is speaking to them? When it comes to actually closing that customer, let's say you do get a lead, how does marketing qualify? Do you just leave it up to your sales team to qualify your leads? And does the sales team actually have context? So a lot of the time I get on the phone with customers and their sales team doesn't know what pages their leads are visiting. They don't know how their prospects are engaging with their website. Like that's really important context so that when you reach out to that customer, even if you know 1 or 2 things about them, they feel like a friend. You know their business, they trust you. It's going to make that sales process much more effective. And if you do manage to get a customer, are they just seen as the output? Like, is your sales team only comped on new customer acquisition, or are they actually comped on retention? Like at HubSpot, we're not paid until month 13. So if our customers, we're paid, but we get a drawback if our customers don't stay on board. And that's really strong incentive to not bring a bad fit on board to HubSpot. And ultimately, is your support team just reactive? Like, are they just fielding complaints, or are they proactively reaching out to customers to make sure that they're happy? So instead of seeing them as just kind of a cost center, really invest in that team because a good support experience is undervalued today. So this I did not make, but I think it's really cool. This is the flywheel in motion. And so this is our goal. This is our goal. And at HubSpot, we've adapted our offerings. If any of us were around from the beginning, we just had a marketing product. Then our marketing team demanded that we build a CRM. And then they said, okay, now you need a service hub. And so now we've kind of, all three of these hubs are included in HubSpot so that you can manage each stage of your, I almost said funnel, of your flywheel in HubSpot. So next, how can we actually eliminate some of these friction points really practically? So we'll go over a couple of our customers that are doing this really well. And who in the room kind of feels like capturing leads at this stage is a point of friction in the business? You have to raise your hands or else I just have to leave the stage. Okay, so some of you are struggling to capture leads. Okay, we can always capture more leads, right? We can always capture more than we do today. And you're right, consumers are really impatient. Their patience is wearing out at 10 minutes max. And 82% of consumers require an immediate response or else they're kind of moving on to the next. So when they have a marketing or sales question, if you don't respond in 5 to 10 minutes, they're moving on to your competitor and you're missing that opportunity. So how can we do this practically? So these are some kind of quick hits for you if you do nothing else in Q4. Our idea is that, one, you set up a live chat. I think a lot of people think that you have to be manning a live chat 24/7. You need someone around the clock who's fielding questions. We'll go over how some of our customers are handling live chat and bots today. You don't need someone on the live chat, but if someone can just ask you a quick question, we're going to get them kind of right away versus them having to find the form on your website and getting frustrated. Second, if you haven't experimented with smart content, so with tailoring your website just a little bit based on who I am, so based on what device I'm visiting on, based on what country I'm coming from, maybe what industry I'm from, you're missing out. And again, that time, people have such a short amount of time that if they see something, it resonates, they'll fill out their info. And then finally, instead of, in my opinion, instead of a holiday campaign, make your campaign a referral campaign. Make your campaign ask for a testimonial, ask for a referral, because ultimately that's going to be, if people are relying on those testimonials to make their decisions, that's going to be the key piece. So this is Quinix. Don't know if any of you know Quinix. They're a workforce management solution, and they've built their website on HubSpot, but they were using a CMS before HubSpot that was quite clunky. The marketing team couldn't log in. They had to reach out to the company that hosted their website to make any changes. So Quinix has completely tailored their website based on industry. So they're really going after the healthcare and retail industry. So if I'm visiting and they know that I'm from the healthcare industry, the offer they give is tailored toward the healthcare industry, whereas if I'm coming from retail, it's retail related. Second thing they've done is developed QuinBot, which is one of, I think, the most impressive chatbots that we've seen at HubSpot, which we'll kind of walk you through QuinBot in a minute. And they rotate leads. So if I come to the Quinix site and I say, hey, want to learn more about your product, they route me directly to the product team. That lead is fed directly to the team, and they built out those workflows using marketing automation and sales automation. So this is QuinBot. I logged on yesterday, actually, and I chatted to QuinBot, and they said, how can I help? Gave me a bunch of different options. It's pretty obvious, like they're gonna send me to the support team, or they're gonna send me to like an upsell team, or they're just gonna send me to a sales team. So I said, yeah, I just wanna learn more about the product. And then it gets really specific. It's like, am I gonna send you to a business development rep? Or am I gonna send you to an account executive? Or am I gonna send you to a product expert? So this is really an impressive bot. I didn't keep going, but this is kind of an example of what you could build. If this seems a little stressful when you have other Q4 and we're still in Q3 here, but if you have other priorities, you can make it really simple. So one of our partners has this really simple bot. I'm not saying the partner's name because I know we're at a partner event, but this partner does have a nice bot. And they say the first thing on their website is, would you like to set up would you like this piece of content? And as soon as I say yes, all it does is ask me for my email address. So it's not, no one's manning this chat. This is one question and just a really quick way to capture that lead instead of me filling out some chatbot script form. So coming back to these closing customers, do we feel that closing customers is a point of friction? Like, is your sales team, okay. And so 75%, and I would think this would go up in Q4, of sales reps say that closing customers is their main priority. It ranks higher than pipeline development, than prospecting. It's all about the close. And so a couple things on the marketing side that you can do, especially in Q4, like time is money for reps. Like we don't have time to be sifting through nonsense, to be dealing with a very manual process. So if you can develop, it doesn't have to be an intense lead scoring model, that can come later. But if you can literally rank leads 1, 2, 3 points higher, if they're a good title at a company, or they're visiting from your industry, that just helps reps prioritize their day and prioritize their time a little bit more. The second, which I'm always kind of surprised, like with customers that don't have HubSpot, they truly don't have this level of insight. So if one of my leads is on my product page or my pricing page, like our marketing team is telling us right away. They're sending me an email that's basically holding me accountable to working every single high quality lead that I get. And they're measuring that. Like I know on the back end, they're measuring how quickly am I responding to somebody that's visiting our Service Hub page. If that customer doesn't have Service Hub and I don't reach out, that's a huge miss. So again, with that time piece in Q4, making sure they're getting every lead is important. And then this one too, if people don't have a dynamic link, so if you want to book a time with me and I reach out to you, you book a 30-minute slot on my calendar. It syncs up with Gmail or Outlook, whatever provider you use. And as I get meetings on my calendar, just dynamically updates my availability. Really simple, and since we built this tool, I know for me, like that's 2 to 3 days sometimes that you spend back and forth trying to schedule that meeting. 2 to 3 days in Q4 is really valuable time. And this last one that we recently implemented at HubSpot, and our customer does this really well, that we'll talk about in a minute, is making sure that every single deal you create has a next step action. So what is the next step on this deal? And a date. This holds not only the rep accountable, but makes kind of managers have the insight as to how are these deals progressing? Can we trust our reps to close it? Do we need to get someone else involved? And really, like, how do we get this over the line in Q4? So our customer tenant base is managing kind of the close really effectively. They're in a position where they're generating a lot of leads. They offer rental space to startups that need space. So what they do, as soon as someone comes in, they sign up, they say, yep, I need a space. They route every request automatically, evenly amongst the advisors at the company. Then that advisor, instead of continuing to nurture that lead with a marketing email that feels like a marketing email, this advisor uses sales automation, so a plain text email, to make sure that this person is not falling through the cracks. So they enroll them in maybe 3-4 emails to go out over the course of a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, with that invitation to book time on my calendar. Haven't heard from you, book time on my calendar. I think one of my prospects is in the audience and knows that I'm constantly sending, if they're not following up, holding them accountable as well. And then they've also implemented this rule that I spoke about, that every deal has to have a next step date. And their managers each week are checking in on pipeline and pulling this in and making sure that they have everything they need to close. This third point of friction, turning customers into promoters, may be a bit of a newer concept. Does anyone feel that that's a point of friction in the audience? Cool, okay. Yeah, so 80%, I don't know if anyone's CEO in the audience, but 80% thinks they deliver superior customer experience, and only 8% of customers actually agree with that. So I don't know if they're maybe a little delusional, but let's figure out how we can actually measure this in Q4. So number one, get a ticketing system in place. This is something, I know some of you are startups, you're probably like, nah, I get enough inquiries that like, I can manage them. I don't need a system, like I just respond or I have someone call them. But if you can get in the habit of tracking how quickly you're responding and making sure that you're holding yourself accountable, it's gonna be valuable as you scale if that system is in place when you grow. The second is a knowledge base. If you're getting the same questions over and over, even if you don't build out the whole knowledge base in time for Q4, start gathering those questions that are coming up all the time, and start to plan how you can make that kind of Q&A section on your website so customers can search for the question they have, which is going to cut out a lot of unnecessary support time. And then your support team can actually spend time solving complex issues versus how do I log in to your platform. The last bit is you might think that your customers are happy, you might talk to your success team, but if you don't send out a promoter score, a net promoter score survey, would you recommend my company to a friend? It's a simple question. You can actually leverage that in your marketing. That can be your Q4 marketing campaign where we leverage those promoters. Just ask them for a referral, a testimonial. Like people are really willing to talk about their success with your platform and just talk about themselves in general. And I think Santa Cruz Bikes, they're out in California. They're doing this really well. They have a very expensive bike that they offer, a motorbike. Every request that comes in is tracked in their ticketing system. And the team can collaborate on the ticket. So they can mention each other, they can pull people in that are necessary. If the person that sold the bike needs to be involved, let's pull them in. And all that context is living in HubSpot or in the platform that you're hopefully using, so that we know when they bought, what they clicked on our marketing page, and we have this like full 360-degree view of who this customer is and how they've engaged with our brand. And finally, they've actually started to really improve their response time. So they were finding that it was just taking too long to solve simple questions. And as they started to track how quickly they were responding, they've improved that and leveraged the analytics on the back end. So hopefully some of these tips will help you kind of reduce that friction in your funnel, set yourself up for a strong Q4, and keep that flywheel spinning. So. Thanks.
Haskell's never stop. Anyway, so it's a pleasure to introduce Karen from Cato Networks, one of the most successful startups, B2B startups in Israel, and she's going to tell us how she's doing it.
Okay. Wait, is this working? Yeah, okay, cool. Everybody ready? Everybody eating? All right. So my name is Marav. I'm here to tell you, to reveal some secrets about how to succeed in Q3 and in Q4. So I'm a marketing director at Cato Networks, and we really solve networking and security challenges for companies all over the world. Cato Network was founded by these two giants, Shlomo Kramer and Gur Schatz. And over the past 4 years, you can't hear me? Great. And over the past 4 years, we've signed up hundreds of new customers with thousands of sites. And as you can see, if you can see this, we've also enjoyed amazing year-over-year growth, which means that as marketers, our KPIs are getting higher and higher, and so are the expectations. So on to the mission at hand. How do we succeed in the second half of the year? So this part of the year is tricky because, as mentioned, it starts with your summer vacation, it ends with your end of the year holidays. Your potential customers are at their desk 3, maybe 4 months out of 6. So essentially you have half the time to reach those same KPIs. And the first thing you want to do is you want to choose the one KPI that you're really going to zoom into, and that's the one thing that you're going to have before your eyes in the next months to come. So whether it's leads, MQLs, QSLs, pipeline, choose the one thing that is meaningful and has some business value as well. So in my case, that's QSL, Qualified Sales Lead. And that means that our pre-sales team had a preliminary discovery call or conversation with a prospect. That prospect met the minimum qualification criteria, and we handed him off to sales. How do you get more of those QSLs? So there are really two, I don't know if you can hear me. You can hear me, right? There are really two ways of thinking about this. First of all, you can look at the database that you already have and try to get as many leads to convert from a lead to an MQL to a QSL as fast as possible, as mentioned. Or you can bring in net new names that are of such high quality that they almost instantly convert into QSL. So I actually wanted to do both, of course. Why not challenge myself a little? And the underlying methodology to the tactics that I'm going to share is something that I want to talk about a little bit too. So what we did is we crossed account-based marketing with intent marketing, and the results were so amazing. I really think this is a match made in heaven. So a little bit about ABM. When you put together your ABM strategy, really you're looking at a set of criteria. It's usually demographic, firmographic, that you apply as a kind of prism that you use to examine all of the accounts that you already have and any new account that's coming in. And the assumption is that this list of accounts is going to be more likely to become your customer later on. And you can get to this list in different ways. You can use your past ones, look at those, try to find a commonality and apply it going further. Or you can use different vendors that help you really identify that perfect customer profile. You then want to market to those accounts, obviously, get as many contacts as possible, and you can use different vendors to meet them, whether it's in ads, with metadata, email marketing, media. There are different ways of doing that. But the thing is, even while you put in all this energy and you finally have your perfect customer list, it doesn't mean that they're actually ready to buy right now. So imagine this scenario. At Cato, I actually know exactly who my perfect customer is. With them, you really get 4 things. First of all, you know that somebody is interested because he's researching. Secondly, you know it's accurate because he's looking at content that is very close to home. He's looking at your content or similar, at your product or similar, or even at your direct competitor. He's doing it within context because most of these researches are done on professional websites. This is not somebody trying to read the news and your banner pops up at him. And most importantly, it's recent. It's happening right now. So while account-based marketing gave you a list of who you want to target, who your perfect customer is, this really gives you the what and the when, what they are looking for exactly and when they want it, hopefully now. And when I first heard about intent marketing, I thought, this is great. I really don't need anything else but this. But the thing is, some people can be very interested in the product that you're selling, but they're never going to become your customer. Think of students doing their research for a thesis or whatnot, bloggers writing an article, analysts putting together a report, super interested, consume any content that you put out there, but will never become your customer. So the cross between these two segments becomes very important. And the overlap between the two gives you not just the perfect customer, but the interested perfect customer. And if you work throughout the year, especially at this time, to put in more and more names into the account-based marketing and really refine that criteria and do the same with your intent, then you get a very strategic segment that will yield, hopefully, a lot of business. So we did this exercise at Cato Networks. We wanted to see how many people really matched those segments in our own database. And we found that about 8,500 people matched the account-based marketing criteria. Out of those, almost 6,000 had also had some sort of intent signal. And only 316 out of them were actively engaged with us at that point when we checked. And I don't know if you see this, but it kind of goes without saying. But the fact that I know that Cato Networks is going to be the perfect solution for this lovely frosting segment over here, it doesn't mean that they know who we are. They haven't engaged with me. They don't know about my brand. They don't know about my solution. So how do I get to these people over here? And without doing 6,000 cold calls, right? Because that's not what marketing does, and sales is not going to love you for it either. So the way you get to that segment is you get them to engage with you. And in this case, specifically, it doesn't matter if the engagement itself is very meaningful. It can be a very light engagement. It can be a click or a visit. And the reason for that is that we already know almost everything we need to know about the prospect. So we don't need to use a very long form to get more details about them, to profile them further. And we don't need them to sit through an hour-long bottom of the funnel webinar just to know that they're interested. We have that as well. So here are some really good ways to get some engagement. You want to use top of funnel material that has very prominent user value. Think of surveys, of guides, comparisons, analyst reports. These are things that probably your prospects are looking at throughout the year anyway, and they will happily consume, download, and look at more. So at Cato, we do a survey almost every year, actually every year, and we do it at the end of the year. And it's great timing, really, because this is a time where you can ask people about the conclusions, what they've learned so far, and more importantly, about their plans for next year. So last year we launched, we're going to do one this year as well, but this is from last year. We launched a survey called the 2019 State of WAN, and it had 51 questions, quite long. It was completely anonymized, so no barrier from participating in the survey. And we built it using SurveyMonkey, which made it very easy, actually. And the thing you want to do while you're promoting this survey is you want to make sure that you get as many people as possible in front of it. So you really want to table everything else that's going on and get your team or yourself or any resources that you have just to get drive as much traffic as possible, to those surveys. So use your website, your blog, your PPC, your social media, anything you have. For us, actually, the most meaningful channel was email marketing right down here. And we managed to get 1,600 responses. So 1,600 people actually took the time and they needed to spend to answer 51 questions.
Without incentive?
Hang on. Hang on. So with incentives, different kinds of incentive. What you want to do is you want to promote this with a user value, with a benefit to the user who's taking his time to do this hard work for you, right? So this is an example of an email that we used. And in the middle section, I've highlighted some of the more professional benefits, right? You're going to be on par with your colleagues. You're going to crowdsource some wisdom for everybody else in your industry. You're going to understand how others solve challenges that you're dealing with. And over here are some more personal benefits. So obviously you get the results from the survey with all of the conclusions. You can also join an exclusive user panel. And lastly, but more importantly, you can get a free t-shirt, a very nice Game of Thrones t-shirt, or even win a bigger prize. So some of the questions I put up here just to use as an example. You want to make sure that the questions that you ask give you some insight as to how much of a match you can be for the person that's actually answered this survey. So the first question, for example, is about use cases. I'm actually asking what type of use cases that I can help solve is my customer, potential customer, dealing with as well. The second question is more about the needs, the pains, what challenges I can help him with. And the third question here is very simply about budget. So what is their budget going to look like next year? That's kind of important for me to know. So on to the incentive. We had a little trick added here at the end of the survey. So we had a non-mandatory offering to get a very cool t-shirt. And as it turns out, this t-shirt did a lot for lead generation. Whoever was interested in the t-shirt had to put in their details so we could send it to him. And all of a sudden, we had a lot more information about more accounts that we can profile in our account-based marketing. We also had 54 people ask to be contacted directly to get a demonstration about our product. And almost 700 people who wanted to be in an exclusive user panel. And we can keep on being in touch with them, ask them questions. These are people who are really genuinely interested in your product. When we had all the results put together, we packaged them into a beautiful PDF report, and we used that as another asset that we could send over to our database. Completely frictionless, right? This is great insight into how to do things next year. And we got almost 3,000 downloads just from that. We also sliced and diced it, used it in blogs and webinars. It was resources that we could pull out whenever we needed to show some thought leadership material. This was also a great PR generator. And we got almost 18 mentions there because we had some wide industry conclusions in there, and that usually works very well with PR. So this did a lot for our brand and for our trust, and we could pull from these articles, show them to our potential customers or even existing customers. Some numbers for bottom line here. We had about a little over 1,600 registrations, 1,100 people walking around with this actual t-shirt, 753 marketing qualified leads, 54 contact us requests, and 76 opportunities. So there's a lot of dollar value in that, as you can imagine. And the operational cost of the whole thing was just under $6,000. So the ROI on this was unbelievable. Even if you count in salaries, it was still completely worth it. And as I said before, it's kind of a gift that keeps on giving because you can use it throughout the year. I want to give another example about how to get to leads that you don't have in your database, or that you do have in your database, but they just never, ever respond to your emails. And in this case, we put together a display campaign, again, with very top of funnel material. These are guides, these are analyst reports. And there are a couple of lead journeys here that I want to share with you that I think are meaningful. So January last year, 2018, we got a lead on LinkedIn from a very well-known brand. We were super excited to see it. This lead then engaged on Bright Talk with our own content and even visited our website a few months later. But then it went completely cold. This guy did not want to have anything to do with us. It was kind of a don't call us, we'll call you situation. I believe he even hung up the phone on our rep. It was a dead end. A month and a half ago, we added this account into our strategic account campaign. So we used Bombora to get intent, that's a vendor, and metadata to serve the ads on social. And finally, we got a hit. So the guy was targeted on LinkedIn, downloaded an asset, started responding to our nurture email, and even downloaded a few more ebooks. Finally, he was back to the table, all of a sudden super interested, a real sweetheart, wants to know everything about us. This actually turned into a very valuable opportunity. Another example is actually more recent. So this account was on our strategic account list, research tech target, which means that they had intent. This is the intent signal. We added them to Influ2, that's a vendor that shows display banners on Facebook and Instagram. And over the course of about a month, we exposed 5 people from this account to almost 400 impressions of our banners, a lot. Finally, one of them cracked and clicked one of the banners on Facebook, downloaded the asset, and came in to get a call. Another very valuable opportunity was made here. And the thing is that we targeted 5 people, and the person who actually downloaded the asset brought in the more senior decision maker into the call. So it was still a way to get them to engage. So the results were really quite amazing. We started around the middle of May, and these are the conversion rates from MQL to QSL that we've been seeing. So you can see that in April and May, conversion rates are around the 5%, and then all of a sudden in June, we're almost twice as high. Some takeaways that I hope you can use. First of all, choose the one KPI that you focus on. I really hope you cross your account-based marketing list with intent. That strategic segment is going to yield a lot of interesting opportunities for you. Drive to engagement using top-of-funnel material with high user value, and use some incentive. Everybody wins, and you won't believe how many people, what people will do to get a t-shirt. Thank you very much. Are we doing questions or?
Any questions? Any?
Any t-shirts? Yes.
Yes.
I'll give you a survey.
Once you answer the survey. Okay, we'll switch to our panel discussion. So I'd like to invite Sinead Cogan from HubSpot to host the panel and actually ask our marketing experts what are they planning to do. I think, hello?
God, I really know how to clear a room. Welcome to the panel discussion. So, firstly, I suppose we've had some great presentations today, and the first person I guess that I'll jump to introduce is Chen.
Hi.
I did. Yeah, we've been practicing the pronunciations this morning. Irish people get a little, I was going to say lazy, but just poor on pronunciation. So excuse me if we meet each other later and I'm struggling. Few practices. So if you can give a slight introduction to yourself today, because obviously we've heard from both Eitan and Merav. So.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Chen Dembo from CyberInt. I'm in the marketing team, almost for 4 years there. CyberInt is doing targeted threat detection and mitigation, and we serve customers from the retail industry, the financial companies, and the gaming industry. And we're mainly focused on organizations with a significant digital footprint, which expose them to variety of threats.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So we're going to jump right in with some questions. You've been very patient. You haven't had much opportunity to speak. So when we've gone through a couple of questions, I think we'll put it over to the floor. And anyone who's been sitting on any burning questions all morning, you're going to have your opportunity. So we want to see plenty of hands and make it as interactive as possible. So first question, we'll start down the end. How would you say your Q4 is different to all other quarters in terms of your marketing?
Q4 is just, it's actually Q3 and Q4, I see those two as very connected.
Sure.
It's kind of the money time. Like, if you don't do it now, you won't get it done this year. So the pressure is much higher. Usually our KPIs are higher as well. So there's a lot of...
They rise throughout the year, the KPIs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they do. And like, we can't miss a beat. Like, everything has to be done. There's a lot of pressure. I think it's probably the most intensive part of the year for us.
Okay. We move it up the chain?
Sure.
So Q4 is definitely different than other quarters. And in my perspective, we're gearing up the effort internally towards Q4 and our activities there. And what's happening in Cyber is that we are focused on planning, collaboration meetings, brainstorming about the relevant content to be used in Q4 campaigns. And that includes our data scientists, our research team, the product team, and our analysts, who are a very good source of data. And we work together to sharpen the messaging, find cool stuff that are very interesting for our audience, and producing this content ahead of time.
Yeah, actually you said something interesting there. I think with Q4, you guys, not only are you trying to close out a year, but that's when your planning starts, I guess, for the following year as well, so it gets even double hectic.
Of course, we want to educate them, so when they do have the intent to buy and they have spare money, they will know what we're doing and that we are a perfect fit for their needs.
Yeah, okay. It's on you?
So the truth is Q4, we segment our different audience types differently. So we'll have very, very small SMBs and then going up to Fortune 500. And one thing we actually found is that with these smaller companies, they're typically more likely to buy during the summer, right? Usually it's these like smaller entrepreneurs, they're like really busting, just like busting kind of like work throughout the year. So you can hit them up in the summer when there's a little bit of a lull from everybody else starting to speak. So don't start selling to them, that's our time during the summer. So depending on the different target audience, you really have to adapt the right timing. When it comes to the Fortune 500s, a lot of them, their financial, like their quarterly planning isn't the end of Q4. Sometimes a lot of them will count until Q1 or Q2.
Yeah.
So knowing, particularly across the Fortune 500, what their financial plan is like and when their budget starts to run out is really helpful for us.
Sorry, did you say when their budgets run out?
Yeah, well, I mean, typically,
Yeah.
For the Fortune 500s, at least, it's easier to get excess spend when they're closing out the quarter and they find that they have a couple of $100,000 lying around somewhere.
That you want to take?
Yeah, I want to hop them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And the other thing we find, during Q3 and Q4, kind of the pace of news picks up a little bit.
Yeah.
Typically, there's more things to newsjack, and we turn that into a valuable resource for bringing top of funnel leads in for the beginning of the next year. But the truth is, like our quarterly peak actually hits towards the end of Q3 rather than the beginning of Q4.
Right.
And modeling correct your KPIs right so that you don't model a huge spike in demand during December, right when everybody's off anyways, is always really important. So we got burnt with, I think KPIs are really, really important, and we all get a little bit crazy around them. But if you set KPIs that are unattainable, it ends up burning people out.
Yeah.
So making sure that you kind of balance making people push, but also realize that October, Q4 is basically dead.
Yeah. Well, Amit always tells me that he likes to work during Q4 and December, so I'm not allowed to go too far because he always wants to be closing in December. All right. So, Eitan, we'll start with you this time. So, for Q4, are you working on your existing database or are you hunting new leads? Now, I'm very interested to the answer to this one.
So, I mean, I think the answer is always both, like all the above. when we, I think as I said earlier, when we bring in the leads in Q4, they're typically a little bit more buy intent.
Yeah.
So we find that particularly across our SMEs, about a third of them will convert within the first 7 days.
Okay.
So that's on the SME side, and the Fortune 500 side, it's obviously like a year and a half life cycle. But as you move out throughout the quarter, that conversion cycle starts to get faster and faster and faster.
Yeah.
So leveraging that to kind of make sure that you close the deals from the new leads faster, and then go back and rework your older deals is important. We usually see our biggest spike in new leads and convert rapidly again to Q3 and early Q4.
Okay.
I totally agree with what you said, and yeah, I was like into this answer. I'm trying to think what to add to it that will give value to the audience. So maybe I'll need another minute.
Yeah.
To you.
Yeah.
New question or same?
No, same question to you. I'll do it again.
New leads or existing?
Yeah.
Right? So again, we do both, but a lot of our energy is towards the existing leads that we have. But this is particular to us because we have quite a large database. I think if it wasn't so, maybe we'd shift to look at net new as well.
When you say large database, because what's large to one person might not.
Few 100,000.
Okay, so that's, I think, large to everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a B2B company, it's quite big.
Yeah.
So for us, that's a system that works throughout the year.
Yeah.
And of course, we can kind of calibrate it towards the end of the year. But yeah, I think if you have a mechanism that works really well for you, if it's PPC, if it's net new names, or if it's retargeting, you can look at amplifying that as well. So it's really where you feel more comfortable kind of pushing it a little bit.
Taking that low-hanging fruit. Yeah, cool. Will we move on from this one? Yeah, okay. So next then we're going to start with you in this one because you got off easy last time. So this is for all the salespeople in the room to take back to your jobs this evening. How are you planning to help sales with existing ops in Q4?
So what we're actually doing now at Cyberint is getting feedback from the regions, different regions, about what type of content we should develop for their prospects that they are trying to nail. That's actually a very interesting thing to do with them. Some of them are new people who joined us recently and they have a fresh mind and didn't speak to these prospects for a long time. So we're trying to develop relevant content to help them to get to these opportunities easily, or to wake up like sleepy opportunities with relevant content that will answer their needs, and that's something I'm very excited to see how it works.
Yeah, especially in Q4, if you're reawakening. I like the way you said that. Actually, reawakening sleepy leads is definitely, I think, a good place.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm coming from a sales background. I want to have conversations with people who have heard the name HubSpot before, or have engaged with our content before as well. Marav, we'll go to you next for this one.
Yep. Same question.
Same question, yeah.
So in general, I really think that marketing, we kind of work for sales, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of
And we appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, we love it, we hate it, but we work for that. So,
It's getting tense up here now.
yeah. And actually the best success that we had is with getting insight directly from sales, not necessarily from their directors or VPs, but from the sales
people on the phone.
And that really helps us do our job better and get leads that are better. So I think if you can get 2 or 3 salespeople that are really willing to talk to you, tell you what you're doing wrong, tell you what you're doing right, even just tell you, give me more of that and less of that, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
Especially when timing is a little rougher.
Yeah. Perfect. Eitan?
Yeah, I think these are all great answers, and kind of, I feel like the relationship you guys have with your sales team just makes me feel like I need a couple of therapists in my office. But I mean, sometimes we do get anecdotal evidence of like what works well, and kind of they'll pick it up from them, which is really nice. We actually, last busy season, we spent 2 days with all the marketing team working over hours and basically getting very knee deep in qualifying leads, with a fine-tooth comb. So we called them marketing fiestas. We basically sat together with the sales team. We just opened up these lead lists of people that we weren't 100% clear whether they're QLs, SQLs, and just started qualifying them, hand them one by one, hand in hand. Just I think it really showed to the sales team that we're not just going after marketing KPIs, we're actually going after hard revenue.
Yeah.
But it also gives you that actual feel, right? It's more just pounding the pavement and feeling, getting a real sense of quality for leads.
Yeah.
And that's something that whenever we feel we really need to provide a little bit of oomph or a little invigorate the funnel a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry to fly with it a little bit.
Good save there, good save.
So whenever we really feel we need to integrate it, we just jump that back in there and start going through it manually.
Yeah, and I think especially, it's a two-way street, right? As Lindsay said, if she gets a lead from marketing, they've identified this is a good lead because XYZ, and then Lindsay hasn't acted on that opportunity. Marketing want to know that. They want to feed that back to the salespeople to say, well, look, we're actually definitely generating quality leads. Please tell us why you consider this not a good lead. It's not a following up thing. It's just like you said, it's improving that relationship between sales and marketing because we all have the end goal, which is more revenue. As well as that, I think Lindsay brought up in her presentation the meeting link. Now I'm going to try out a number. Please don't quote me. I've heard it somewhere. I need to double check it myself. I'm pretty sure that our direct team, 75% of their revenue came from the meeting links that Lindsay showed last year. If I'm sending out a meeting link, it's probably on a one-to-one. But our marketing team, for example, would send out, if it comes from an SQL or an MQL, and they would add my meeting link to the email. The email will come directly through me. And honestly, it is, like I said, for Q4 especially, if you want to cut out that time of back and forth, get a meeting link in there. I mean, obviously, HubSpot or any other meeting link that's available. But if it's something that I want to leave with everyone today, it's certainly add those into the marketing or sales emails. All right. So, what is your top performing channel right now? We'll start with you, Eitan, this time.
So my favorite channel is LinkedIn ads. I'm just, the more I play around with them, the more I really like them. We just started doing this thing a couple of weeks ago where we have a freemium platform. We basically took a LinkedIn lead gen form and turned that into a sign-up form in LinkedIn. So we would advertise, basically start a nurture funnel with content, start retargeting those same people in LinkedIn with a sign-up for a free platform right now. Just with 3 questions from the LinkedIn lead gen form. As soon as people would fill that out, we pipe that over to a webhook that would just sign them up for the platform directly. Right, so letting them sign up, and actually spoke to LinkedIn to make sure it was cool with their terms of service. They were down with it, and it ended up bringing us in sign-ups for our platform at probably 400 to 500% less than what we were paying before.
Oh,
so
wow.
that's a fun kind of thing that
Yeah.
we're really working on.
No wonder you said it's your favourite channel in quite a short time. I have a feeling you'll be getting a few questions about that after the panel.
For us, it's also LinkedIn, which works the best. We run campaigns there throughout the year. We're trying other channels as well, but LinkedIn is definitely where our people...
Your heart is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my heart and the contacts.
Yeah. Yeah. Marav?
So for us, it's a combination. I think the most meaningful contribution to our end, to the bottom of the line, is actually bringing in the intent factor, because that just made everything speed up.
Yeah.
The Facebook worked better, LinkedIn worked better, email marketing worked better. Everything just came together. So I actually think, I know it's not a channel specifically.
Yep.
Although it can be, I think that is what makes the difference in most cases.
That intent. Actually, you've really highlighted that for me. I'm going to bring intent. I'm going to start using that a lot more back in HubSpot next week when I get back. Cool. Okay. Ouchie, this one, next one. Can you give us an example of a disastrous campaign and what you would do differently? Yeah.
Okay, we had a few campaigns that didn't work. I think we had there was a certain point in the beginning of the year that we had a lot of feedback that the leads were not qualified enough. And we kind of succumbed to that pressure and did a very bottom of the funnel campaign.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Again, just the other point. How did you get the feedback that the leads, I mean, did they give
they're
you
not
reasons?
shy.
Okay, all right, yeah. Okay, all right.
Well, I've never ever heard them say, these are amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
But this was especially on the other end of
Okay.
these are not qualified.
But they structured a bit for you. It's an email or through CRM or whatever the case is.
So we have a scoring system,
okay.
and it floats up the leads that pre-sales then handle.
Okay.
And when they're not happy, we immediately know it immediately.
Yeah.
And they weren't. And one of the things we tried to do is we tried to go really bottom of the funnel, just kind of this is the solution. Do you want it? Yes or no? Like
Yeah.
That was kind of the campaign. And while it did have a lot more eloquently, obviously, and it did bring in some good opportunities, but the number was very small because most people won't respond to that. Like, don't come at me now with a yes or no.
Yeah.
You want to buy this, yes or no?
Do you think the conversion was high from the, I know you said the
conversion wasn't high. We
okay.
did get really, the ones who did respond were super ready to buy.
Yeah.
It's great. The conversion was low.
Okay.
So I think that, I see that as an unsuccessful campaign. It wasn't
Okay.
the right timing, it wasn't the right segment.
a less aggressive
Yeah,
approach.
We learned from that.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
So it's not really a campaign, but it's sort of. It's a tool that we developed in-house, which allows whoever wants to use it to scan their main domain for any hijackable subdomains. And it's very interesting because the tool is amazing. It's working very well. It brings value, immediate value. But users are, or our target audience, are not using it as I expected them to use it.
Okay.
And we get lots of non-qualified leads and great exposure. And this tool brings lots of awareness. And to your question, what can we do better? This is still running. This is a free tool and it's accessible to anyone who wants to use it. But I'm trying to figure out the way that our target audience will use it. So it could be in rephrasing the call to action in an email.
Yep.
Scanning your domain is something scary. Saying that it's a non-intrusive scan is not always moving them, to use it.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to see when you change the wording and when you place it in email number 3 versus email number 1.
Yeah.
It works better or not so or not so well. So it's like playing around with it, and I do see more relevant leads coming in using it, and that's something that I'll keep improving and looking at.
Yeah, because it's like that's an incredible offer, I think, to get leads in, and probably just does take a bit of time to trial and error and kind of tweak it a bit. We had a similar kind of offer in HubSpot. I still use it. It's probably a little dated at this stage. But the same thing. It brought in a ton of leads, which is a great thing. Yeah. But sifting through those leads then, obviously.
Brings up into an opportunity. Lots of bug bouncers.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah. Okay, and finally, Etan, for that question.
Yes, there's a lot of disastrous campaigns to pick from. I'm trying to think what my favorite one is.
Be modest.
Well,
just had that one, remember?
Well, I mean, our most disastrous one was when we accidentally put all of our prospects into an onboarding email flow for new users. So basically, what we normally onboard people with after they become a paying account, where we send out usernames and passwords, and that went out to 24,000 people, and that wasn't great. But that wasn't actually a marketing campaign. That was just somebody stupid pressing the wrong thing.
It happens.
I think, just looking at it from like a more holistic perspective, we once went down this rabbit hole with on the content marketing side. This was on a campaign targeted more towards SMEs and CEOs, and it was basically this idea that us trying to think, well, not everybody wants to talk freight all the time. So let's try to broaden it a little bit. So we ended up creating this like very, just a high production value video series where we dove into it was basically called like Masters of Trade. It was before Reid Hoffman called his podcast Masters of whatever. So we got there first. But we basically created this very high value, production value video series of like 8 or 9 interviews. Cost a ton of money. More importantly, took a ton of time.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we got probably more people viewing it internally at Freightos to kind of like authorize it and actually like viewers. And I think like the biggest takeaway for us was just like stick with what you know. Like if your content strategy is about really providing value, then you're probably much better positioned to provide value in your wheelhouse. And just because your customers are interested in something doesn't mean that you're the right person to educate them on it.
Okay, it's a good point. All right, great answers, guys. And finally, the last question today. So how do your competitors influence your Q4 activities, and what are you looking out for?
It's kind of fun to see competitors play around with channels that you played around with and couldn't make work, because you kind of just see them playing around and wasting money. We tend to, I mostly look at it from a media perspective, like our industry is very media buying heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to watch where people are actually buying their media, spending media, and speak to the reps there. I found that from a PR perspective, it could be almost as useful maintaining a relationship with the ad vendor at a particular publication as it is having a relationship with the editor, right? Particularly as we go deep down the very specific trade publications. The perspective that the ad vendors have, who's trying to spend money, who's spending money aggressively, who's trying to bid across keywords that aren't relevant for them, is really valuable market intelligence. So I think I mostly look at where our vendors are starting to advertise. If I haven't played around there, I'll just think about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Usually I'll delay a little bit, right? If it's a sparse enough industry, if there aren't that many competitors in the space, I don't feel a need to get into the channel at that specific point, right? If there's 2 people that are bidding for the same keywords, bidding for the same user demographic, and I know that they're going after my demographic,
Yeah.
I'll usually pull away from that channel for a little bit because we don't need to jack each other's spend up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'd rather just wait and not try to get lost in the mix, right? I'll just wait till the next quarter and play around there. So probably it's more of an exclusionary aspect than like seeing a guy advertising or seeing a company advertising in a particular place and just stopping my spend there rather than increasing the spend.
Okay. Rather than getting into a bidding war.
Yep.
So I'm spying on them just as they spy on us, obviously. And that's something that I do during the year. For Q4, I don't think it's any different than what the effort that I put in it during the year. But I do see who consumes our content, who's downloading stuff from our website, which persona in the organization is doing it. Also subscribe to their emails.
Yeah. Which is kind of a compliment if they're downloading your stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm looking at any changes in their messaging. Are they launching anything new? Have they changed anything significantly since the last time I checked it? And that's where we're trying to be aware of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to change dramatically our strategy.
Yeah, you keep an eye on it.
Yeah, we keep an eye on them.
Okay, smart move.
I think for us the comparisons piece that I mentioned is really good, because when you put yourself in front, like really compare your solution with the others, and you highlight obviously where you can do better. I think that's a very powerful piece. So it's top of funnel, but it is still very related to the solution. And if you want to speed up the buying cycle, I think that's a very good move. So it's really finding a way to guide someone through all of the different competitors and see that you're actually the best one out of everyone.
Yeah, okay, great answers there as well. So there's been a ton of stuff here. Does anyone have any questions that they have for either of our panelists? Straight up the front.
Hi. So summer is a great time for seeing a lot of out-of-office replies in our emails from all the campaigns. Do you have any strategy in place to do something with that?
Is that directed for anyone in particular or just across the board? Marav, you have the microphone here.
We don't have a specific strategy for that, but we do try to put everything, all of the campaigns that we do them until the middle of July. Then we take a break with that. And we do a little bit of social, we do a little bit of other things, and then we come back to that in September. But I've not seen a perfect solution to the out of office yet.
Does anyone else have anything to add to that one?
I'm checking who's relevant, who's still relevant for my database, where do they move, and I manually update. I haven't seen any perfect solution. I'd love to hear if you have anything in mind.
We'll come back next year and.
That's a good point. The truth is, I mean, we do a lot of like downloadable content, and I'll constantly, some of it's still sent under my email address, and throughout the year I'll constantly get out of office replies to people that just downloaded content, right? And I think that's the biggest proof point that like out of office is live, right? I mean, we're all, I mean, people are probably checking their emails right now, right? We're always in office nowadays, so I actually don't mind them. I'm pretty okay with it. Out of office, it's not a negative indicator for my email provider, right? I'm getting a response. It's not getting marked as spam. It's okay. Like that's my bounds. I'm stepping into the vacuum that nobody else is stepping into. I don't mind it so much.
It's not. Can I follow up?
Yeah, please.
It's not that we mind them or don't mind them. They just contain a wealth of information about other people in the company. Because usually what happens, someone says, "I'm out of office because I went to my vacances in Malwar," and then it provides name of other people, which we can add to our database. So that's one tap.
Our top tier prospects, the content emails get sent from their account managers, right? I mean, we use Salesforce and Pardot, and it gets sent directly from their account managers. So the bounces that come back will come back to the guy that actually knows, or the woman that knows exactly where to file those emails. So yeah, I agree. I think it's really, really valuable information. I don't have a method to be able to that scale either. So.
That can be our topic for the next one, though. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Yep, over here.
So, I mean, I think the bread and butter of marketing is creating, powerful lead magnet and trying to get leads from that. There's always a top 1 or 2 performing content pieces, even though your team is always trying to spit out quality content. What would you guys say are your top performing lead magnets?
So I'll start just because I'm
Yep.
My flat out favorite is tools. I'm a huge believer, like content is so saturated. There's so many people that are banging out stupid blog posts and we do surveys too, and we love them, and a lot of data-driven surveys. But our top performers are creating these little JavaScript tools that take a week or 2 to develop, optimizing them well, making sure that we reach out to people that might have the same need and doing a little bit of link building around that. My favorite subcategory of those tools are finding large companies that have had online tools in the past and then retired them. You search for the backlinks to people that link to those free tools and then reach out to all the blog posts that are linking to it and say, hey, we have another tool that's working and the one you're linking to doesn't work. And by far, over 33% of our leads come from tools that we develop, iterated on for a week or 2, and then stop working on. So I think the bar for what really good content is has gone from being like a one-sided content to some type of interactive content. And the production value is not so high, right? Just like the marketing team on Freighters actually has a dedicated developer to create small tools like that, and it's been really, really helpful.
For us, research content works the best. It could be trendy vulnerabilities, any threat actors that are active and we are researching around them, and non-targeted threat intelligence that is relevant for a specific industry or for a specific region. These are the top performing assets for us.
So for us, it's surveys and reports, and if we get every now and then an IT, like one of our actual customers, to speak on behalf of how they're experiencing challenges, solving them, that is also very, very valuable. That would be the 3 top lead magnets.
Like a case study, you mean?
Yeah.
A case study or a webinar or a panel or something like that, where he speaks to other IT managers like himself. That worked great.
Okay. Any other questions before we finish up? No? Okay, I think we're going to bring Amit in for closing, but Thank you to Marav, Chen, and Eitan. Thank you. No, for yourself.
Thank you so much for Sinead, Eitan, Chen, Merav, and thank you, all of you. Happy that you could make it and stay until the interesting panel. I think we have one more thing to do. Yeah, you like the one more thing, right? You told me something about it. And that's the whiskey. Hold on. All the people here, I can just not use. Oh, there's so many here. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna decide just on one? Okay, that's good. Fair. Okay. Uri?
So I put in my colleagues because I don't actually have a card, so does that count?
Yeah, that. Here's the whiskey. Okay, the whiskey was here. There's no whiskey. Thank you very much. Here's the whiskey. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming. We're here if you have any questions. See you next year.